Do you know what my favorite pastime is? It's waiting for the next NieR game. I actually partake in this on a daily basis and have been since 2017. Yeah, it's been a long time. We're coming up to, what, 7 years as of right now? The wait for the next NieR game is a long and strenuous one. You would have thought that after the mass success of NieR Automata back in 2017, that Square Enix would have quickly followed up with a sequel not too long after. But here we sit in 2024 with only 2 instances of NieR kind of getting some new stuff. We got the NieR Replicant remakey remaster game that came out in 2021. This was absolutely fantastic and quickly became my favorite NieR game, giving people a chance to finally experience the first installment into the NieR franchise. It also gave fans some additional content to dive into that wasn't present in the very first 2010 version. We also got NieR Reincarnation, which released in the same year for iOS and Android. Not as exciting as a full-blown NieR installment, but still exciting considering that this adds to the ongoing NieR narrative. Unfortunately, this service ended in April of this year, just last month. NieR, however, blew out of the water in 2017, which prior to that, NieR was considered a very niche Square Enix game that only a few people had played. Automata worked wonders for this series, turning it actually into a series, and I would even go as far as to say that this has now become a household IP for Square Enix. It's crazy to think that without Automata, I do not believe that NieR would be what it is today. Since then, we have all collectively been waiting in high anticipation for NieR 3. Actually, maybe not NieR 3? NieR 4, as it seems like Yoko Taro considers Reincarnation to be NieR 3 via this tweet that he sent out in February of this year. This tweet was actually a follow-up to people claiming that perhaps NieR Repent is going to be NieR 3, as Repent was a word that consistently came up during one of the NieR Orchestra showings in London in February of this year, with the last instance of Repent showing up with R3PENT. A lot of fans at the concert believed that this could be a potential tease towards NieR 3, with NieR 3 being named NieR Repent. So Yoko Taro's tweet here with saying reincarnation but having a 3 in the reincarnation could be him poking fun at fans. They're basically saying that reincarnation is actually 3, but it might not actually be 3, the real NieR 3 might be Repent, but I don't know, it's Yoko Taro, it's hard to actually take what he says seriously. However, what is all of this about? Well, we have been waiting for a NieR game for a long time, and it would seem that Yoko Taro's next game isn't too far off. The thing to know about this, though, is this next game from Yoko Taro might not actually be a NieR installment. Yosuke Saito is the producer of the NieR series, who has a close relationship with Yoko Taro, and has mentioned in the past that he will remain as the NieR producer for as long as Yoko Taro lives. Yeah, Yoko Taro and Yosuke Saito have a pretty close relationship. Without these two, NieR simply just doesn't exist. Mr. Saito very recently sat down with Famitsu to announce that his next game with Yoko Taro and Keiichi Okabe, who is the composer of the NieR series, will soon be announced. I've been talking about wanting to do something with Yoko and Okabe for some time now. I'll have something a bit more put together to say in the not too distant future, so please stay tuned. It might be NieR, it might not be NieR, in brackets, laughs. That's about all I can say for now. He also gave a little tidbit towards something else that he's working on, which I can only imagine might be separate from Yoko Taro, saying, "I'm doing various things with the idea of creating something that does not yet exist. I can't devote my time to that fully, so most of it has been left to the staff, but it's turning into something quite interesting. I'm looking forward to the day we can announce it." But focusing on that first thing, this does actually relate back to something that came out in November of last year. During an event in Korea known as G-Star back in November of last year, Yoko Taro and Yosuke Saito mentioned that they are currently working on a brand new game project. However, this game project would be separate to that of the NieR series. What's interesting is Yoko Taro was asked about the success of NieR Automata at this panel and if he could ever achieve a success like that again, to which he responded, "It's just completely impossible." I don't think Yoko Taro's team were expecting NieR Automata to become the absolute Goliath it did become. I think it completely shocked the team based on the popularity of NieR beforehand. Not really many people knew about that 2000 2010 installment. You could say that Yoko Taro is nervous to actually step back into the NieR ring to make a follow-up to NieR Automata, because how do you do that when NieR Automata was just absolute perfection? There are some pretty high standards there, I think, set from the fanbase, and I think he knows this within himself. I don't think he wants to create a game that pales in comparison to the 2017 installments, though of course the entire fanbase has faith in both himself and the team responsible for whatever the next game might be. You do have to wonder why it's been taking so long for a follow-up to happen in the NieR series. After all, like I've mentioned, I do believe that NieR is a household IP for Square Enix, so it's interesting that the higher-ups haven't said, alright guys, it's time to cook NieR 3. Or 4, you know, like whatever one it actually is, if we're including Reincarnation. And don't you worry, it's not like Square Enix has simply forgotten about the NieR IP. In fact, it was actually a part of Square Enix's new business plan. And it was even mentioned by Yoko Taro during the NieR London concert that if fans wanted a sequel to NieR Automata, well, make that known, as the Square Enix president is currently in the crowd, to which apparently the audience absolutely lost their minds. I think even without all of that, Square Enix and Yoko Taro both know that people are desperately gnawing at the bit to get a new NieR game. Now that the franchise is, well, turned into a franchise, and this series is no longer considered niche. Honestly though, when mentioning that this next upcoming project is not NieR related, and this and that from Yoko Taro, it's really hard to gauge exactly what he is saying is actually true. Just because Yoko Taro is a very unserious but then can also be very serious at the same time, it's just hard to gauge what he's actually saying is what is actually happening. It's more of a kind of, okay, thanks for the information, but is this information or is this fabrication? The best way to describe Yoko Taro is that he likes to Yoko Taro. What we absolutely do know is Yoko Taro and Yosuke Saito have been working on something for some time now, and it shouldn't be too long, especially with June coming up, Summer Games Fest, before we actually hear something. I'm not saying Summer Games Fest is concrete, but just because this seemingly has been in the works for some time, we might be hearing about their next upcoming project very soon. Also thinking about Square Enix's AAA pipeline, Kingdom Hearts 4 is obviously there, and at some point in the future, Dragon Quest XII will release. We know that at least looking at the next major Final Fantasy, which should be Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, that probably won't be coming out until 2027, 2028. They are going to need something else for fans to look forward to, and what better than a brand new NieR game or whatever this next project might be, which I'm sure will be to AAA standards. So this is absolutely the right time for a new Yoko Taro project. What I also find surprising is Drakengard. Drakengard is the precursor to that of NieR. It's thanks to Drakengard's ending E, which at the time was supposed to be a sort of joke ending, but for some reason Yoko Taro literally turned it into the reason why NieR exists in the first place. So without Drakengard, NieR wouldn't exist. It's surprising to see that that game hasn't been remastered, considering it is technically connected to NieR. While Drakengard 2 and Drakengard 3 don't really have much to do with NieR, and it's really the first game, I'm surprised that Square Enix haven't given this series another chance due to the popularity of NieR exploding, though some serious quality of life improvements would probably need to be implemented to a point where, looking at Drakengard 1 and 2, they would probably need to be chucked into the remake machine, as their gameplay has aged quite a bit to current day standards. Either way, this is incredibly exciting. More Square Enix stuff is good, especially when it's coming from a reputable director. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about this in the comments section down below. I mean, fingers crossed it is NieR, but I'm confident that whatever comes from Yosuke Saito, Keiichi Okabe, and of course Yoko Taro is going to be quality either way. However guys, thank you so much for tuning on in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with everything going on here. Check out my other social media platforms. A big thank you to my turkey-tastic patrons. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.